U.S. expert: how China dominates the EV industry, stealing technology. Major Chinese weather balloon producer claims it has no ties to downed spy balloon. China plans to overpower Elon Musk's Starlink with its own army of satellites. China's semiconductor companies stockpile equipment amid U.S. Japan-Netherlands alliance. Protest at Manhattan building. Allegedly, it's a disguised Chinese police station.
For the past decade, China's sales of EV vehicles have been increasing nonstop. Between 2021 and 2022, China's EV sales reached 6.8 million, leaving the U.S. far behind with about 800,000. However, former DoD official Nicholas Eftiamades said China's miracle happened thanks to intellectual property theft. He said, out of 724 cases of Chinese espionage, we find about 500 are directed towards main technologies, including aerospace technologies, IT technologies, clean air technologies, and automotive electric vehicle technology. Eftiamades is the author of the book Chinese Intelligence Operations. He pointed out the Chinese Communist Party, CCP's tactics for building a thriving domestic EV industry. He said, they understand that stealing technologies and doing it themselves allows their domestic economy to thrive and allows them to build a very, very strong domestic economy. So they're keenly aggressively stealing select technologies. According to Eftiamades, the CCP provides funding under the table for academics so that they would keep their mouths closed about China's issues. Corruption and coercion have allowed China to conduct smooth espionage campaigns. As a result, millions of U.S. jobs have been lost. Eftiamades also addressed the federal government's loopholes that made defending the state's technology difficult. The U.S. government policies are not geared towards protecting the private sector, leaving many companies vulnerable to the CCP. In this regard, political researcher Andres Kaur suggested that the U.S. learn how Taiwan dealt with China's espionage. Reuters reported last year that Taiwan spy catchers investigated around 100 Chinese companies for alleged poaching semiconductor engineers and other tech talents. Taiwan has been tougher towards Chinese firms. For example, Taiwanese law prohibits Chinese investment in chip design and restricts Chinese investment in chip packaging. Also, traders will face public shaming, penalties, and work bans. A major Chinese weather balloon manufacturer claims it has no link to the alleged spy balloon shot down by the U.S. earlier this month. It also claimed it was not a military company. According to Reuters, Zhuzhou Rubber Research and Design Institute, an affiliation of Chinese state-owned chemical giant ChemChina, disputed its connection with the downed spy balloon and said it is mainly engaged in manufacturing sounding balloons of natural latex in compliance with all applicable laws and regulations. The company said, our products are used for daily weather forecasting by weather stations and do not have any connection with the so-called and reported U.S. balloon incident. Zhuzhou Rubber dominated weather balloons in China, accounting for 75% of high-altitude balloons used by the Chinese Meteorological Administration. Washington has added 6 Chinese entities involved in Beijing's spy balloon operation to its trade blacklist. The list, as reported by Reuters from the Commerce Department, includes Beijing Nanjiang Aerospace Technology, Dongguan Linkong Remote Sensing Technology, Eagles Men Aviation Science and Technology Group, Guangzhou Tianhai Xiang Aviation Technology, Shanxi Eagles Men Aviation Science and Technology Group, and China Electronics Technology Group Corporation 48th Research Institute. A U.S. Air Force F-22 fighter jet shot down a Chinese spy balloon off the South Carolina coast after it flew in U.S. airspace for a week, causing a heated outcry toward the Chinese regime. The Chinese spy balloon incident had sent the tension between the two countries to a higher level. As a result, the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken canceled his scheduled visit to Beijing. It was to be his first in more than 4 years. U.S. State Secretary Blinken also warned the Chinese Communist Party CCP's top diplomat Wang Yi over the spy balloon incident, saying it must never happen again, and its surveillance program has been exposed to the world. In addition, the U.S. intelligence community has revealed that the Chinese spy balloon is connected to a vast surveillance program operated by the CCP army. According to the Washington Post, the State Department had briefed about 40 embassies over China's balloon espionage. The department also sent all U.S. embassies detailed information about the Chinese spy balloon incident to share with allies and partners. Researchers expect a massive fleet of Chinese satellites to enter low Earth orbit as Beijing looks to disrupt SpaceX's Starlink. According to the South China Morning Post, researchers at the Space Engineering University affiliated with the Chinese military have been following a project called GW. They plan to launch 12,992 radar-equipped satellites into Earth's lower orbit to dwarf SpaceX's Starlink network. While SpaceX's system is only around 3,500 satellites at present, it is planning 12,000 satellites in orbit by 2027, and the overall number to finally reach 40,000 orbiting devices. The researchers say the Chinese fleet will monitor the U.S. satellites at close range and eventually use lasers or high-power microwaves to nullify one of them if they venture over China or other sensitive regions. The researchers say the Starlink satellites may use their orbital maneuverability to actively hit and destroy nearby targets in space. The Chinese constellation has revealed no specific launch or completion date, but the researchers said they want the GW network to be operational before Starlink's constellation. Beijing has long been concerned about Elon Musk's Starlink satellite communication system, which looks to beam internet access to customers worldwide. Last October, the tech billionaire told the Financial Times that Beijing requested he not sell internet service in China. The Times wrote, Musk says Beijing has made clear its disapproval of his recent rollout of Starlink. He says Beijing sought assurances that he would not sell Starlink in China. It did not specify if Musk has agreed to such proposals. Starlink has kept Ukraine at war to remain online until earlier this February when the U.S. space company restricted the Ukrainian military from using it to control drones.
The U.S.'s sweeping export controls put into place last October have dealt a blow to the CCP's chip ambitions. According to an SCMP report on February 24th, Japan and the Netherlands have finally agreed to join the U.S.'s call for global support to enforce export curbs against China. As a result, the country's semiconductor industry is now in turmoil. Chinese chip firms are scrambling to stockpile chip-making tools, spare components, and other related raw materials. The outlet, citing sources, noted that the move reflects Chinese buyers' fear of facing potential growing restrictions on chip equipment purchases. A primary chip toolmaker in Beijing has filled several large warehouses with parts and materials, even those not under scrutiny from U.S. regulation. A Japanese supplier disclosed that even though Tokyo still awaits clarity on tighter export restrictions to be unveiled this April, some Chinese firms are still overbuying the country's parts and tools not needed for their current manufacturing plans. Dylan Patel, a chief analyst at research firm Semi-Analysis, revealed that Chinese chip firms are ramping up stockpiling from overseas because they do not have a domestic supply chain in China. Nicolas Gaudois, head of Asia-Pacific Technology Research at UBS Investment Bank, said that Chinese chip firms can still purchase supplies from Japan and the Netherlands as of now. However, he added, it's not enough to support China's capacity expansion on the leading edge because it's necessary to have the whole sequence of equipment for each manufacturing process step, which includes equipment sold by U.S. companies. As reported by SCMP, China's chip shortage is so severe that SMIC, the nation's leading contract semiconductor producer, announced this month that it would delay production at a new Beijing-based $7.6 billion factory for 3 to 6 months. Chinese official data shows that the U.S. move slashed Beijing's chip-making tools imports to 4,789 units this December. This indicated a decline of 35.3% from a year earlier. In addition, China's annual imports by volume in 2022 plunged 15.3% year-on-year.
At a building in Chinatown on February 25th, demonstrators stood outside yelling for the demolition of an alleged Chinese police outpost hidden inside it. Professor Xinyun Huang told the New York Post, CCP agents are everywhere. When all the human rights groups have protests and demonstrations, the CCP will come and harass people. The Chinese Communist Party, CCP, rules China. According to Safeguard Defenders, the party has sought to extend its repression power beyond borders through disguised police stations. They may appear as a service center to help overseas Chinese, but their mission is to carry out transnational repression. The building at 107 East Broadway allegedly hosted one such Chinese police station above a noodle shop. Last fall, the New York Times reported that the FBI raided a nondescript building in the Big Apple's Chinatown. The outpost was situated on the structure's third floor and is run by the American Changal Association. Pro-democracy activist Tony Kai, a demonstrator present on February 25th, said, it's a very serious problem in the Chinese community. The CCP has coerced the Chinese community severely and has a large influence on them here in the States through American and Asian American politicians. Kai was jailed twice in China for supporting free speech. He eventually went to the U.S. in 2000. He said, "I'm very worried, but I want to support the community leaders who are honest and openly against what the CCP is doing." Protester Chuam Jiu said that they are not happy with the appeasement policy local authorities are using toward the building in Lower Manhattan. Jiu said, "They let the CCP repress freedom and human rights activities. We want local government to have high-pressure policy on CCP agents." Joining the demonstrations that morning was Congressman Mike Gallagher. Representative Richie Torres, who also joined the rally, said, "We're sending a powerful message that the defense of human rights from the abuses of the CCP is not a Democratic value or a Republican value, it's an American value."